morning, everybody, and a happy Monday morning to you. I want to thank everybody for your messages. I am fine, you guys. It's just a little cold. The weather here is going up and down. Last week it was a high of 70. Today it's a high of 90. It's like the weather can't decide what it wants to do. We have a lot to cover in today's video, as well as somebody wrote to me and said, would you please share the recipe for the stuff you've been making for your friend? For those who don't know, one of my friends was just diagnosed with breast cancer and I made her some food. So I decided to throw those recipes in. There's one at the end if you're interested. So there's a lot to cover. Let's jump in and get started, shall we? Let's go. Really quickly, before we jump in, your comments again. People are suggesting that Harry and Meghan went to the party but were turned away, and reminded me that when they went to Oprah's house that time, even though we found out Oprah wasn't home, that actually is interesting. I had not, it's like a Rubik's Cube. You got to turn it different ways. Pretty cool, though. I have to say your comments are right on. Here's one person that said that the party was actually a meeting of those connected with the P. Diddy scandal. That could be too. All right, let's jump in now. Let's go. We're starting on with this story. I told you about this the other day. I did 2 videos on it. Josh Gettr, who was the chief of staff for, Harry and Meghan, resigned after just 3 months on the job, right before Harry and Meghan left for Colombia, and they were saying that he was joining the Sussex Survivors Club. This is when the articles came out saying that people were afraid of Meghan Markle, that she doesn't like to take advice, that she likes to belittle her employees, that she and Harry are both very bad decision makers, that they make up their minds, then they change their mind, then they go back. But the article basically says Harry's nice, but he enables Meghan. We all remember Tom Bower's book, Revenge, that talked about bullying behavior. We all remember Valentine Lowe in his book, Courtiers. He's the one who broke the story about the bullying. And even Harry discussed it in his book, Despair, talking about how the staff was thrown over their desks crying. Now, of course, the people who spoke up anonymously because they could be sued because they had NDAs in place. So, of course, it was anonymous. So when Harry and Meghan's staff decided to hit back, they did it as an insider, an anonymous insider. If this stuff is fabrication, why don't you just, say who you are? So a staff member stepped up and said that the entire story was fabricated and total nonsense. Those are the words that were used, even though the reporter who broke the story here spoke to over 12 ex-employees and some current employees. One of the allegations specifically, which came up when Harry and Meghan were still in the UK, was the fact that Meghan was shooting emails to people at 5 a.m. and she would get angry if they didn't respond immediately. I mean, I remember stories of people being out to dinner and they were on their own personal time with their families and they were getting emails. And if they didn't respond, she would call them. So anyway, the staff now is saying that that's not true. Let me backtrack. The one anonymous source is saying that's not true, and then goes on to say, and I'm quoting, who hasn't sent an email when they can't sleep or they're awake early? I've never once gotten an email from either of them at that hour, and even if I did, the Duchess specifically notes in her email signature that everyone has a different working day and not to feel obligated to respond outside of normal business hours. Really? Then why didn't you give that over? You don't have to give the whole email. Just give something, in confidence that shows that it's from her with that on the bottom. But nobody even handed that over because I think it doesn't exist. They said in the article there were fears that this could be one former member of staff who's putting out mistruths. How could it be just one former member of staff when the Hollywood Reporter person spoke to over 12 people? Something is wrong when you lose 18 members of staff on both sides of the ocean, and keep in mind that that total does not include nannies and house staff that were terminated as well. Now, the source for the Sussexes said that what they're really concerned about, what everybody is concerned about, is the timing of the article because it was published just before Harry's birthday. It's a calculated smear campaign is what they're insinuating. Wow, that sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Because remember, when Harry and Meghan went on the Oprah show, and I'll still call it a show, they came out afterwards and said that she cried herself to sleep the night before the Oprah show because the stuff came out about the bullying. It wasn't true, and it was a calculated smear campaign. So anytime anything comes out about them that could possibly look bad, the two of them claim it is a calculated smear campaign. I have to be honest, I find that a little, hypocritical as usual, because after all, they're the ones that have been smearing the royal family right and left, up and down, knowing that they can't respond. And yet staff members have been sticking to their stories. They have not wavered at all, and they are claiming that they were bullied. Neil Sean even came out and reported that because of these reports with the 3 a.m. phone calls, she's been reaching out to people to try to get somebody to speak out on her behalf. And word, according to Neil Sean, is that she has reached out to Oprah and asked Oprah to speak up. But Oprah's busy doing other things. And apparently Meghan is going down the road of, they wouldn't be saying this if I was a man. You get where that's going. In the meantime, Harry and Meghan continue on attacking the royals. And because of their constant attacks on the royal family, one article called it guerrilla war. And it's because of that, Meghan cannot return to Britain, and she will not be with Harry at the, Well Child Awards. Even if she wanted to go, she couldn't. I wonder if the two of them have ever stopped to think, Mr. and Mrs. Sussex, that their constant attacks on the monarchy are the reason that a lot of young people are very disillusioned with the monarchy. But if the monarchy is abolished, they go back to being Mr. and Mrs. Nobody. I don't think they've ever thought about that. And the reason these articles are coming out is, Harry has spiked interest if Meghan will return to join on the trip. She will never step foot back in the UK. They have hired PR experts to boost their popularity, but until something happens, no, she will not return. She won't step one foot out of that airport. But just like with Invictus, Meghan still wants to be a part of Well Child, even though she won't go to the UK, which is why Neil Sean has reported that she has a taped message that she wants played, but it's yet to be seen if it will actually be played. All right, here we go with the recipe. This is called Noodle Kugel. In case you've never had it, you can serve it as a main dish, but it's so sweet, it should probably be a dessert. You boil the egg noodles until tender. That doesn't take long. Set your oven to 350 degrees. And I don't put salt in the water, by the way, I'm boiling the noodles. After the noodles, drain them and let them cool down. I help cool them down by just putting cold water over them and using tongs to turn them so that, they drain well. Now, while that is cooling, this is what you're going to do. FYI, I am not advocating any specific brand, but you're going to mix the following ingredients together. 1 16-ounce container of cottage cheese, a 16-ounce container of sour cream, a half a pound of butter melted, 1 1/4 cup of sugar. Of course, you can use stevia if you want. A half a teaspoon salt, 2 teaspoons vanilla, 1 teaspoon cinnamon, and 6 large eggs beaten before you put them into the bowl. All right, so now this is an immersion blender that I bought. See this? And so you're going to start, and you're just going to mix it all up very carefully. Now you're going to put non-stick spray in the bottom of your dish, big dish. Pour the noodles in. Now you take it and you pour it over the noodles. And then you mix it in here to make sure that all the noodles are coated in the sauce. Then you bake for 1 hour at 350 degrees. And after 1 hour, this is what comes out of the oven. You can serve it hot. You should let it set for a few minutes before you cut it. Some people like it cold, some people like it warm, and you keep it refrigerated when you're not eating it. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, you guys, you know what to do. Hit the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for all notifications. Go down into the description box where you'll find the link to video number 2. Let's go.